Well, hello everybody. Here I am today at the studios of noted global philosopher, futurist, creative guy, and photographer, Larry Johnson. Let's see if he's in. Larry!
Hey, good to see you.
How you doing?
I'm good.
This is Larry Johnson, and we're talking on Third Act Stories. And today we're going to talk to you about your exciting career of photography and
it's definitely a third act.
And philosophy and all that sort of stuff. Larry's a friend of mine, and this is his studio. And he does all kinds of photography work now, but you're also working with the art group here in New Braunfels, Texas.
In a bunch of different ways, yeah.
Yeah, and trying to make an art community in the Hill Country. And let's just start talking about all that. Just grab a seat.
Okay.
And I'll grab a seat. Okay, so, I researched you a little bit, Larry. I mean, I know you from being a photographer and being an artist local here. And your education, you've had a Harvard Institute for Educational Management. Is that right?
I did a postdoc there, yeah.
Yeah. Executive Leadership Institute, Doctor of Philosophy from UT.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Master of Business Administration.
From just up the street in San Marcos.
Bachelor of Arts in Mathematics. Yeah, you've been on a bunch of different boards, globally recognized in technology and futurism.
That's right.
So it's like a seance type thing.
No, it was a thing though.
And you raised like $25 million in grants. You've been a speaker.
Actually, more than $100 million if I include the money that we raised to rebuild the dams.
And I think we should include that, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Okay, let's include that. Be sure to include that.
I had to win an election to get that money, but we did it.
Okay. Did you kiss any babies? Did any babies kiss you?
It wasn't that kind of a race.
Okay. You've been a speaker, you've written books, you've been a photography professional. Some say photographer, but I like to say photography professional.
Okay.
Just because I don't like messing it up. For Playboy Asia, that's the first one I put on the list. That's probably not the first one that you put on your list, but Sports Illustrated, fashion photographer, National Geographic, and the list goes on and on. But the questions I've got for you really center around how are you continuing to stay creative and what good decisions? Here's the first question. This is a good first question. What good decisions have you made in your life to get you to where in your third act that you can have a photography studio, you can be involved with the city and involved with arts, I know you've got a good family life, you've got a home and family and probably speedboats and yachts and all that kind of stuff.
But yeah, some of that.
But how did you give our listeners some advice as to good decisions you could make to get into that situation in your third act?
Save money.
Save money.
Make investments.
Well, and you were saying earlier you invest in land. Is that
property?
Yeah.
Not undeveloped property. It's all like rental houses and stores and a restaurant.
Yeah. I was telling you I've got all mine in stocks and stuff, which have been okay so far. But of course, the apocalypse hasn't come yet, so we're waiting on that.
Let's hope that doesn't happen. But I was in stocks for a long time, and then when I decided to actually retire, I felt like I needed to be into something less volatile.
Yeah.
And so I went into fixed income.
Well, but you kept doing all your creative work too. It seems like you're still doing photography work. You're still working with artists. You've got a studio here. What kind of decisions did you make to keep that creative fire going?
I think it was more a set of decisions to deal with the fact that I couldn't stop being creative. And that I needed to find ways to get that done that didn't impact the rest of my life.
So that's when you were doing your full-time work. You were a teacher, right, for a long time? Didn't you do that?
I was a teacher for a time, but most of the time I was an administrator, and most of my career I was the CEO.
Okay. Of your foundation that you'd started, or?
No, but one that I got hired into that job for. And then before that, as a president of a college up in Wisconsin.
In my third act, I'm painting, I'm doing all this kind of stuff, but I kind of went a different route. I was a 9-to-5 guy my whole life. All my decisions were based on, how do I get the best 401k, the best all this kind of stuff. And then I retired kind of early, and it allowed me to start becoming a painter and doing things that I wanted to do. And it seems like you've done a lot of that during your career, but you say you kind of did more of it once you retired. And
I did different styles. While I was working, I was traveling crazy, like all over the world. But, I had the opportunity to be in Europe, to be in Asia, to be in Australia, to be everywhere, really.
And you told me at one point that you had magazine guys that would tell you, oh, you're going to be in Timbuktu, whatever. Be sure and get a picture of that temple or do this.
Exactly.
So you kept communication open with the folks that were doing that.
It was a different industry back then.
Yeah.
And, people talked on the telephone, mostly. And
they pulled the little antenna up sometimes.
Yeah, well, and, we had these things called Rolodexes.
I remember Rolodexes.
And mine was full of the names of editors of travel magazines.
Mine had a little animated cartoon character on it when you spin through it.
I'm sure yours would. Yeah, of course it would. And, if I knew I was going to, say, Seoul, I'd call up, a magazine I knew featured Asian stories a lot and say, I'm going to be in Seoul. You got anything you need shot? And they'd tell me, and I'd get it done. They were just little, side gigs, really. Mm-hmm. But it helped me to refine, my ability to get jobs done, like actual photographic work. Ceased being a hobby.
And photography, I remember, growing up in the 70s and 80s, photography was a real hot art form. You didn't have AI or you didn't have, a lot of computer generated stuff. If you had to get a photo that you wanted, you had to know how to get it either in camera or make the additions, in a dark room or whatever. And it was very much there was a craft to it that isn't quite the same as...
I disagree with that. The tools have changed, but, dodging and burning, which was the process you would do in a dark room, you still do.
The futurist, right there.
You just use a digital brush instead of, the little paper cutouts that you did back in the day. The tools are way more powerful. And, there are new tools with AI that you can take that trash can out in the background. With a click. And, those are nice. But in general, the digital camera works pretty much like the old film cameras.
Well, so what's different nowadays in photography? I mean, magazines, are they still, I don't even read them.
There are still magazines, but not specifically magazines focused on photography.
Yeah.
Or photographers' work.
Does National Geographic even come out anymore?
It does.
That says something about me. I don't.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that is still around. Their staff, since I knew them and worked with them, is completely rolled over. Mm-hmm. And so it's all new folks up there. But, they're one of the few. There are magazines, but they're mostly for people who like to read.
Oh, so that's not going to be me. I like looking at the pictures.
Well, it means that there's not as much work for photographers. And also there's become this thing where a lot of people are willing to pay a magazine to feature their work.
Oh, yeah.
Which would have been considered completely unethical back in the day.
Well, I know that's why a lot of folks in the movie business are worked to death, literally, and they don't get paid anything because there's so many people out there who would just love to be in that business and have their work show up in it.
So for me, not being a person who can paint or draw, I mean, lots of people have multiple disciplines. I'm a good photographer, but I don't really know how to do all the other stuff.
Yeah. He's a good photographer.
But AI, it overlaps the two things I do really well. One is that I can imagine a picture and then go make it, like in real life. Mm-hmm. And the other is that I can write. And with AI being able to do those two things, you can create just about anything that you want. And the tools have just gotten to be so much better. I know there's a lot of ethical boundaries there, but I feel like if it's my work that I've conceived and I put the time in it, and just like any other photograph, when I'm done creating it, I'll take it into Lightroom and I'll do even more. And if I don't spend an equivalent amount of time creating an AI piece as I do creating, any other photograph, any of these photographs, the one with the tripod, that one I took almost 300 photographs. And the point of most of them was just to get her to be so comfortable. She wasn't sure, where the boundaries were going to be. Once I had a chance to work with her for a little bit, that worry went away. That was mostly because she's what we call a civilian. She's not like a model that really knows how the business works. And so you just have to spend a little bit more time with them, because you're not just taking their picture, you're really trying to get them to give you things like.
Yeah, they're part of the art. They're adding to it.
Right.
Yeah. When you got into your third act, did you notice that you started to be more free about the kind of photography you were doing? I mean, did you start experimenting more?
I definitely started experimenting more.
Yeah.
And I've had a range of studios here in New Braunfels. I had one just a couple of blocks down the street that was probably 5 times bigger than this. And then I moved out to studios at Fisher, where they named me as artist in residence, where I got to be for 7 years, to use really a state-of-the-art photographic studio, unlike anything anywhere else in New Braunfels, with all the gear and all the different kinds of. It was an amazing experience, and I used that time there to do a lot of stuff.
Well, one of the things, we're involved with different artists, different galleries and things, and you see people coming in who are starting this creative effort in their 60s, 70s, and older sometimes. If you could give those kind of people any kind of advice as to, say somebody's out there and they've wanted to be creative their whole life and now they've got the time, what's the best approach to it in your mind?
I guess you got to figure out how you want to express yourself. If you want to paint, you need to find some painting teachers.
Yeah.
And take some classes. If you want to do photography, you need to understand what the journey looks like.
For me, one of the things that I felt like when I started to do it was I needed to get the paintings that I was working on out in front of people. The interaction with other artists and with an audience, to me, sort of makes it legitimate in a way, or makes it work that makes me feel like, hey, I'm getting somewhere with it, even if it isn't really hitting a great note with somebody. At least you're interacting with people and you're getting feedback. For me, doing it in a silo and not getting it out there where the public can see it is sort of a kind of a dead-end street for me anyway.
No, I would agree with that. I think it's invaluable to have a clearer sense of how the viewer responds to your work. And it's something that I put front and center. And all my artist friends like you, they do the same thing. They want to create a response. And I think once you begin to think about your work in those terms, you're really ready to start doing something special.
You know what to me, one of the funnest things that we're doing, we get together with a group of artists once a month, and you're involved in a lot of different art related things in this town, and it's just so much fun to see the energy that comes from that.
The thing about the Bohemian Society, which is our little group that we put together, is
the non-sacrificial Bohemian Society.
Yeah. Is that it really has tapped into a genuine need. That it's clear that many other artists wish they had that and don't.
Yeah. I think if I were going to give artists and creative people any advice, it would be to connect with other creative people. When I was younger, and my whole life I had creative people around me, and I made a choice in my life to work in a business where I was doing creative stuff still. But the idea of anywhere you are, it doesn't have to be in a big town or a tourist. We're in a tourist town kind of that's growing like insane, so nobody else come here. Okay, we're closed now. Sorry, and it's really nice to see other people's work. We've got several other artists who have different styles, and they come at it from different directions, and they've got different histories. And it's fascinating to me to hear all their histories and where they've come from. And now this is artwork. You shoot photography of art as well.
Yeah, but this is actually a commission that I had that's done with AI.
You're talking about models. You've got an experience that's something that most people will never have, and an experience that, as an artist, I've had some experience with, and is working with nude models.
Well, first off, everybody knows what the goal is. And, you just try and make the art, but also do it in a way that respects everyone involved.
All the wonderful shots that you've done of the different cities. I love all the color, the racetrack.
It's the difference between taking a photograph and making a photograph. And so there's this shot over here from the Kentucky Derby that I shot, and I use it to teach, the basics of why you would choose one aperture over another, and shutter speed. We were there for a week. It was an amazingly complex shoot. We had 6 photographers, 67 remote cameras covering the entire track, and then we all had, at race time, our individual assignment. And I'm at turn 1. The race is 2 minutes long. I had these horses in front of me for maybe 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And, they're coming at 40 miles an hour, and none of them are tired yet. This is the first turn. And I wanted to use things like blur of the background. Mm-hmm. You can still tell that those people are all still wearing the fancy hats, but the detail's not there. The shape is there, the form is there. And the reason why it's blurry is because I chose a particular aperture, which is the size of the hole in front of the camera. Mm. And that's a side effect of that choice. But it makes them be in the story, but they're not the story today. And I use focus of the 2 horses in the lead right out of the gate. The one with the blue halter is the winner. Mm-hmm. To really capture, who to watch. And if you look at the rest of the jockeys and horses, the further back they are, the more blurry they are.
I love that photo. One of the ones that catches my eye is the girl sitting against the blue sky. And what really hits me about that photo is that lightning bolt of a red stripe going up her leg. The figure is great. The fact that you're shooting her low, you've got the long legs going and all the sky and everything else, but that jagged line going up through all this calm imagery, to me, is great.
You know, I'd never seen that before.
Well, maybe I'm wrong.
No,
I could be wrong.
I think you're right. I just knew that I loved this picture. The model is one of the top models in Europe, and just the most fantastically talented model. She'll just morph right in front of you to create things like that.
You know, and that's something that a lot of people don't realize about models and actresses are the same thing. When they're good, they are as much of an artist as the people taking the photo or shooting the film or whatever.
Picture above the horses is a Cuban gal that's an actress. I love to work with actors and actresses because we do really fun stuff, and I can ask them to give me characters. And in this case, I said, okay, here's the concept. We're going to pour water over your head, and what I want you to give me is you're imagining that your significant other just threw a drink in your face.
Oh, that's why I think she's dangerous.
Yeah,
she's dangerous. Yeah,
yeah.
Nice.
So and so that's what she gave me, and I think you can just feel it.
Well, you can see she's getting ready to say the worst thing that a human being could ever say to another human being.
Is that the best you got?
Yeah.
You know? And so the thing is, with every good picture, every good photograph, there's a story like that that's trying to be told, and so I like to have a wall of some of them up. They change all the time, but.
Well, Larry, I've got to tell you, I really appreciate you telling your third act story.
Thank you. I'm glad to have a third act.
Oh, well, and then there's always overtime.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Well, thank you for coming by.
Again,
thank you for letting me come by.
Sure, you're always welcome.
But you're coming by virtually by being on the third act, right? Okay, we'll see you again next time on Third Act Stories.